I can say categorically that they, meaning the bandits, are not Boko Haram. But we have to be very careful, because if the pressure is too much, Boko Haram being more international, more connected, or maybe more richer, might influence the bandits. And he also said that they may be infiltrated. He said they are ready to lay down their arms. So he's asking for a negotiation of sorts with these bandits. And I'm wondering, how feasible is it? Well, CP Lawrence, I think that we lost Mr. Badaya again. Nigeria is a country that, yes, of course, like Ismaila said, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State had at some point paid these bandits. Sometimes we hear that people have negotiated for, people who've been kidnapped to be returned to us. But is this a good idea to negotiate with these people? Is this not a call for more and more people to take on these kinds of, banditry, knowing that at the end of the day, if some people are abducted, there might be money exchanging hands or negotiations of sort?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. And this issue is very topical, considering the issue with bandits. Who is a bandit? Is he a friend to the side? A bandit is a bandit there to protect life and property, or to destroy life and property. And Mr. Ismail has confirmed that some of them came from outside the country and he admitted their borders. Are going to allow our country to be invaded by foreigners, by these bandits who are coming from outside the country. You don't legalize illegality. The criminals are criminal, and whatever guys they come, whether Boko Haram, whether bandits, whether kidnappers, they are criminals, and they be dealt with according to the law. If we now begin to say, okay, let's negotiate with bandits and give them amnesty, give them ransom, whatever, and so forth. Look at what is happening to kidnapping. Kidnapping now is a lucrative business, because they know the way they negotiate, they'll be giving money, they now dictate the tune. We should not negotiate with any criminal. We should deal with them, and the government has the power, has the political will, the instrument of violence. That's the only issue that the government has the instrument of violence to deal with criminality in this country. And Section 14B of the Constitution provides that. The purpose of government
I totally want to agree with you that the government has what it takes to deal with criminality and crime in this country, but it's shocking for those of us who are on this side of the divide when we realize that a sheikh who is not trained in combat or security in any way is able to get through to these bandits and even negotiate or be a go-between them and the government. But then we have security officials or officers and men who have been unable to fish out these bandits, talk less of having to get all of the people that they've kidnapped or abducted in their custody. So really, is this something that government can really handle? Because these are questions that we've been asking over and over again. One man was able to trace these bandits, get to them, have a conversation, yet our security forces are still strategizing.
No, I think if what the government should do now to interrogate GUMI, how did he know them? What was the relationship between him and these bandits? That's excellent, because we have to find out how is he an accomplice, or is he how did he know them? The government should be better intelligent about him, about what he does, and how is he linked to them, and so forth. But the intelligence unit of this country, the DSS, the Defense Intelligence, police having all these intelligence unit should profile him and find out what is the relationship with these bandits. What is the interest with the bandits?
Okay. Mr. Badaya is joining us.
And saying that the bandits are not criminals. How do you say bandits are not criminals? They are criminals. What are they? They're actually criminal. And criminality crime is a transgression against the people of Nigeria. So the Nigerians should write and say no. The government should say no and stand and let it assert. The government should assert itself and dictate the tune.
Okay. Let me go to Mr. Badaya. We have him joining us on the phone. Mr. Badaya, Sheikh Gumi also made another statement. I'd like to quote him. He said that there was an incident that happened in Zamfara State some time ago where Fulani themselves caught some elements of Boko Haram and presented them to the government of the day at the time. So he's saying that they're not Boko Haram. They are citizens. They recognize authority. What do you think about this statement by the Sheikh? Because he's trying to make a case that these people are not necessarily criminals. They are fighting for, their rights. It's an ethnic war of sorts. He called them militants. So I'm asking, what do you think he means by this saying that, the actions of the bandits are not criminal? Really, should the things that they've done in the past be excused?
Well, I don't know where to start. I feel very alarmed at the direction of the whole discourse that we're holding. One of the people on this platform came out to say that some of the bandits are not criminals. And we've heard this kind of nonsense before. Somebody said, oh, not all of these Boko Haram people are terrorists. Not all of them are killers. I don't know how people reason. What is the definition of a bandit? I hope I don't have to bring a dictionary and open it to you and then say, look, my friend, this is the definition of a bandit according to, the standard dictionary. Mm-hmm. A bandit is a robber or a thief. If you look at the synonyms, it has synonyms like brigand, freebooter. All of these are criminal characterizations of what a bandit is. So when you come and you say, I wouldn't want to use expletives, but you use terms that show that you don't have basic education, then I find it just very a waste of my really precious time.
So Mr. Badaya, you're of the opinion that they're all
a brigand.
So are you of the opinion that they're all criminals and they should face justice? Is that
Sorry, can you not interrupt me, please?
I'm sorry, I'm just asking a question. I apologize. Are you of the opinion that they're all criminal and they should be made to face the law?
Yes, they're not just criminals. A criminal is a general term that is quite commonplace. They are terrorists. They are people who use violence and fear to kill, to rape, and to, destroy entire communities. And please, let's not compare it with the Niger Delta. And some people have tried to do that. How many people did Niger Delta people kill? You wouldn't count up to 20, actually. And among the people they kidnapped mostly white people. I'm not saying that is right either.
I was about to ask.
They were very clear in their targets. Mm-hmm. So these people are not fighting for any justice. This is part of the jihad that has been waged on an unarmed and defenseless people. It is a global policy of some people to, win over Nigeria by force of arms, to use fear, kidnapping, and intimidation, to enforce a policy that the former president Olusegun Obasanjo called a policy of Islamization and a policy of Fulanization. We are going to resist them, and we will defeat them.
But out of curiosity, how do you Islamize or try to win people over through violence and fear? I'm guessing that if you were going to make me like something that you believe in, you would go about it a different way instead of just, killing and abducting people. I'm really curious as to this theory of Islamization that you brought up. Should that, if there were to be any, would they be going about it this way? Because I'm not sure if I would want to believe in a God that says kill people and instill fear?
Are you asking me?
Well, yes, because you spoke about the Islamization.
Well, of course, why not? Why not? Why not? Look, there is, I don't know whether you came across a statement by a top American general that Islamic Jihad had moved to Nigeria. I don't know whether you came across that. It was public. It was a public statement that they had moved across the Sahara. They had come into Nigeria. They were spreading all over and going further into the rainforest. And they were going to enact a big showdown. So there is a global jihad going on. And this global jihad moved from Afghanistan to Somalia, from Somalia to Baghdad and Syria. And when they were defeated there, they moved to Sahel and they joined the arms of Gaddafi when he fell from power. A lot of arms were freely available. Now they've used this arms. They conquered Timbuktu until the French came in and stopped them. And now they are moving further south and coming through Niger and coming to Nigeria.
Okay.
They have a policy. They have an agenda. And, you know, some people in this country have allowed the borders in the north to be widely open. They're even building a railway to Zender. If that is not a calculated policy, please tell me what it is.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Mr. Obadiah. I'll just come back to you.
If you borrow money, sir, madam, if you borrow money, borrow loans in billions from China, and then you build a railway to another man's country using borrowed money, which Nigerian children in future must pay back with interest, and you build it to another man's country to benefit another man. I don't know what to call such
all right.
Such people.
Let me go back to Ismaila. Ismaila, critics have said that this issue of herders versus farmers has been highly politicized in Nigeria. In fact, the governor of Benue State, Samuel Ortom, recently has warned, in fact, that was a story, a major story today, that herdsmen who are disobeying the laws in his state on the use of arms, he's asking that if they be in opposition of that law, they can go to Bauchi State, where the governor had made an excuse earlier on about these people carrying weapons to protect themselves. He's saying that they can move to that particular state. And we also know that the People's Democratic Party had waded into this matter. So lots of critics are saying that this particular issue is not dealt with the way it should be dealt with because it's being overly politicized. Is this politics at play, or people really just taking laws into their hands?
Okay, it's both actually. People are taking laws into their hands, and also it's been politicized. Number one is the governor of Bauchi. I think he was just being uncouth with some of his statements, you know, because that is actually not called for, you know, because you also need to be very sensitive to the plight of the people who are losing loved ones, you know, due to this fracas. So really, it is not right to say that. But I haven't said that. I think the basics is that, you see, it doesn't seem there's a government in place. And that's why, you know, this takes me back to my first statement to say that Sheikh GUMI stepped in because it doesn't seem there's any government in place. We cannot feel the president. This is the most uninspiring leadership I've witnessed as young as I am in this country. You know, there is no clear-cut
but should it be the job of the president? I mean, those states where these things are happening have governors, they have commissioners of police, they have...
Yeah, they have governors.
And I'm not in any way holding grief for Mr. President, but if the governments of these states had moved fast, or their body language seemed more like they wanted to get rid of these issues early enough, don't you think you would have given the presidency
You see,
some...
This whole issue, if we can keep throwing it at the table of the governors, this is going to remain for 100 years, more to come. The president needs to take it over as his sole responsibility. His number one assignment as a president is to secure lives and properties. The fact that this the Fulani headsmen are moving from one state to the other, it has made it to now be something that is above what the governor can handle on his own. So it should be a federal government issue now, because I mean, there's a level at which I can probably I'm the governor of FCT, for instance. You know, there's a level of what I can control within my domain. If there are no, fence borders around my state, really, I cannot control how these people move in or go out. But you see, the presidency needs to look into
I beg to differ, Ismaila.
I'm
sorry, I beg to differ. The Ondo state government put their foot down, made it clear that if you are a herdsman, you have to abide by the rules and the regulations of the state. You cannot be grazing on government reserve. And this is a government that is responsive to the plight of its people. So when you're saying that, oh, it's a bit too much for state governors, but that's supposed to be a start, because they also took on oaths to protect lives and property. So we can't really put it past them.
The problem, why we're having this bickering over and over, you know, why it's because about having an ethnic coloration is because the federal government refused to take action. If the federal government is the one enacting or bringing out these laws, there would be no section of the society that will be feeling aggrieved. And you see, the issue, I mean, when Ondo State Governor came out with that, so many criticisms. You understand that? So it was having an ethnic coloration because the polity was getting heated. It was, if it was the president who had come out to make such pronouncements, that would have doused the whole tension. There wouldn't have been any tension, because it now makes it look like, oh, it's because Ondo is a Yoruba land, and that is why the Fulanis are perceived to be Northerners. Well, and that's why we're having this.
I want to go to Mr. I really want to go to Mr. Lawrence, but I'm trying to hold myself back. He did not just put out that statement to only Fulani herdsmen. The Ebira people were part of that statement. So the ethnic coloration that you're looking for... That's just a political statement. That's just a political statement. Everybody knows in Nigeria...
I'm not a
politician, by the way. I'm going by the facts that were in that press release.
You can buy into that. You can buy into that. I'm not going to buy into that. Okay. Everybody in Nigeria knows that the herdsmen are Fulani. So for anybody to say Igbira, come on, they are farmers, please. Okay. Everybody knows in Nigeria that the people who move their cattle from one part of the country to the other, according to the season and time, are the Fulani people. So if anybody is trying to now give it another interpretation, it's just being political. But what I'm saying in essence is that this should have been the responsibility of the federal government ab initio, because the previous government probably have been playing politics around this, and that's why we keep having this thing over and over. It's not going to end. It's going to be endless. But what the presidency should consider is that people are dying every day due to the lingering of this crisis.
Okay.
That should be arrested immediately.
Let's talk more about the security of it. Mr. Alabi, the Sheikh has also said that bandits only kill for revenge and have only killed a few people accidentally. Underline the word accidentally. So the kidnappings, I'm asking now, the kidnappings, the killings, the maimings, all of the things that have happened, the rice farmers who were killed on their rice farms, these were accidental? You're a security expert. Please educate us on how killings of any sorts are accidental.
You see, it is absurd. I don't know, is GUMI with
Mr. Lawrence, can you hear us? Oh, I think we have issues with that. Let's go to Mr. Obadiah and...
the field where they are fighting, killing. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I
said, GUMI is saying that those people are fighting as in a kind of revenge. The revenge. You see there on the battlefront where they are fighting. You see they're fighting along with the band or the whosoever that is fighting to know these are criminals. You see, something like a veil. It beclouds our sense of judgment. Whether making politicians or not, we should face the truth. Truthfulness is the foundation of all views. These people are criminals. Whether they are Fulani, whatever tribe, whatever race they come, they are criminals. They should be dealt with, not looking at it from the ethnic or religious point of view. They are criminals, and the government develop the political will to deal with it. The president is commander-in-chief of the arms of the Republic of Nigeria. He has they have this the power, the authority, and to ensure that these bandits are brought to their knees, and that law is being maintained, law is being protected. Both the government, all the governors swore to an oath to the Constitution that they will protect and defend the Constitution and the protect life and property. Now, that Mr. Somebody is saying that there's a government. The point is that there's failure in governance. The government is doing what it ought to do. You know, the government needs to turn up and say no to this, because that's why they were voted. All Nigerians voted, Mr. President, the governor, whichever these crimes are being committed, those governors as a duty. And Mr. President has a duty. He's a commissioner of federal people of Nigeria. He was voted in Nigeria to protect Nigeria, protect our country. We should have law and order is being maintained, protect life and property, so that Nigerians live in peace and without any threat to their life or threat to their property.
Okay.
So I think the government should stand up and say no to this, and Nigeria all stand up, because like it's not purely a government affair, because the citizens are the beneficiary of a safe environment, and when they see security, like it is today, the citizens who suffer. So therefore, it could be citizens to also stand up and rise up and say, we must not allow it to happen.
Okay.
These men are not spirit.
I wish I had time. Mr. Alobi. If I had time, I would have taken you up on the citizens rising up. You saw what happened to us October 2020, when citizens rose up. You know where we are. And remember what happened just a few weeks ago when citizens rose up again, to speak about the issues that they have with the government. They were shut down, but that's not the issue. I'm coming to you, Mr. Obadiah, because we're out of time. We still have schoolboys who were abducted and some staff of the school in captivity with the bandits as we speak. But then there has been reports that there are divisions even in the camp of these bandits as to when these people can be released. Don't also forget that they have also made their demands, asking that some of their people be released to them, and then they can give us the students that were abducted and their teachers as an exchange, a form of exchange. I'm asking, when we continue paying these ransoms or doing what these bandits ask us to do, how does that make us look generally, especially in a country where we're trying to fight crime, we're trying to fight Boko Haram, for a government that rode on the wings of putting an end to terrorism in Nigeria or bringing it down to its barest minimum? Is this not a welcome call for more and more people to line up behind these bandits and take advantage of the weaknesses of the government?
Well, to be honest with you, Russia had a lot of problems with terrorism. I don't know why we keep calling them bandits. They are not bandits. They're terrorists. They're out on an agenda, on a mission, and they are using terror as their weapon. And because this is so, we have to find a way to fight terrorism. Vladimir Putin in Russia had one policy: never to negotiate with terrorists. He never did. If you capture 1 million people, you can kill them and eat them. Putin will never kill you. He will bring his armed forces, he will confront you, he will come till he exterminates you. And today, Russia doesn't have terrorists. That has been policy. And I think it's about high time we implemented such a policy, never to negotiate with them. And appeasement doesn't work. We've been paying billions to these terrorists. You can imagine the federal government paid $100 billion to Mieti Allah, which is a terrorist organization. They have agreed that they have, been tacitly approving of a lot of these killings going on, a lot of these kidnappings. Let's not try to whitewash. Let's not try to deodorize it. The whole thing stinks, and it stinks of official complicity. and of plain kid gloves. And let's be very honest, I was very disappointed with Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State. He has made such arrogant statements before. He once said on national television that the whole Fulanis of the whole Nigeria belongs to the Fulanis of the whole world. He said that on Channel TV. Now, that's a statement that is almost treasonable. He cannot say such a thing. And I was told that allegedly, when he was asked by his friends why he made that statement, he said, look, I have a case with EFCC. I'm in the PDP, I have a case with the EFCC. I have to say this thing so that, you know, they will be merciful unto me.
Well, we're out of time,
and
Mr.
then,
Mr. Obadiah.
So the Governor
closing,
Otom is completely right.
Okay, in closing.
You have never been, if you go to Benue, you see the IDPs, you see the suffering of people. I got 200 died, you know, villagers with priests and church people saying mass at 5 a.m. wiped away.
Unfortunately,
the governor has a right
wrap up this conversation.
to fight for his people.
I'm so sorry we're out of time. We want to thank you all for being part of the conversation, but time is not our friend. We thank you, former Commissioner of Police Lawrence Alobi, former Deputy Governor of the CBN, Obadiah Mailafia, and Director of Strategy and Communications, Coalition of Northern Groups, Samaila Musa. Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of this conversation. All right, well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Islamic leaders warn that it would not fold its hands and watch Muslim students being persecuted in KWARA State. Stay with us to find out more.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
The Muslim rights concern group Murik has warned that it would not fold its hands to watch Muslim students being persecuted in KWARA State. The group was reacting to the hijab imbroglio going on in the state, wherein some public school teachers were said to have forced female Muslim students to remove their hijab within the school premises. Meanwhile, Christians in KWARA State are making some key demands, which include the return of schools and no use of hijab, and that CAN does not want the schools to lose the identity of being built and owned by churches. Well, joining us to have this conversation, we have Abdullahi Ibrahim, former Secretary General of Islamic Missionaries Association, IMAN, and Reverend Joseph HIJAB, Vice Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Northern States. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you, and good evening.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with you, Reverend HIJAB. CAN has chosen the option to pray to God about this situation as a way to get a peaceful solution to the matter. But is prayer really what we need now, or dialogue of some sort?
Well, when in the Christian faith we say we pray, we are simply saying that we don't want to use our human wisdom to address the matter. We need God's guidance, we need God's direction. It's not saying that we are not going to dialogue. It's not saying that we are not having a discussion or conversation. It's simply saying that we need God's direction, because this matter in question was actually there in 2008. Those who are familiar with KWARA story will know that during the Bukola Saraki era, this matter came up. A committee was set up. The committee came up with some understanding, probably because the governor then was a cosmopolitan person who looked at things from a different perspective and chose to find a very simple way of addressing it. Somehow, to the best of my knowledge, I know that about 6 groups of schools exist in KWARA State. One, the schools that are completely government-owned schools. So in such schools, you don't have any say. It is what government wants you to do. Then we have also the Islamic school, the schools set up by Islamic groups or mosques. And the third one is schools set up by Christian missionaries or churches. And then we have also individuals who open their own schools. So each of these schools, and then there are also schools that are quite Islamic teaching schools and community schools, where community made up of Christians and Muslims come together to build a school. Each of these group of schools were allowed a particular way they can dress so that people will be, you see, but something is happening in our country that any tiny thing, people just want to come and hit it up and hit it up. When I read this press statement by Murik, I cannot even understand what is going on in this country. Is it everything we must hit it up? When we go to, okay, you don't do visa or other things, but when you want to go to a school in the US, there is a certain procedure and provision about that school, you're going to obey it. When you go to the UK and you want to enroll in their school, there are certain provisions and also requirements that you're going to accept it. But when we come here, we just politicize everything, hit up a whole sentiment into a matter that can easily be resolved. This is where I find it really sad.
Okay, let me go to Ibrahim Abdullahi. Ibrahim, there have been riots on this particular issue that we're discussing this evening. What is the state government's position on this? And is it the position that Murik has taken, is that the best way to go about it? Asking that businesses and schools that are missionary in nature go back to River State. You didn't even say anywhere else. You said River State. Does that not seem like a hate speech of sorts, or a statement that could, you know, cause problems for not just your people, but of course the whole state in general?
Thank you very much. I thought you asked me the background to the crisis of HIJAB or ownership of school in KWARA State, and that will have been proper place to start.
Well, that's supposedly a public information. That's public. That's already public, and that's the basis for this conversation.
No, we don't take it from the bottom. We don't take it from the top. We take it from the bottom. I thought you were going to ask me what happened that led to the closure of 10 secondary schools in KWARA State. I'll give you the details because that is where I live. Okay. It all started in 2012 during the regime of Alhaji Abdul Fattah Ahmed. The Christian missions went to the governor that they want their schools returned to them, otherwise the government should compensate them. Incidentally, the governor himself schooled in Kaduna, and he told them that the schools you are asked to be returned to you, are they the school taken over since 1976, 45 years ago? They said yes. It happened in Kaduna and all over the country. Muslims handed over their schools to the government. Christians handed over their schools to the government. Then the governor told them that he was in the secondary school, Kaduna at that time, St. John's College, 1976. All schools were taken over by the state government. It was a military regime because the government that time wanted to standardize education. As said by Reverend Joseph Hyab, we have 3 categories of schools. Schools established by the state government, schools established by religious organizations, and schools established by various communities. government was saying that all of these schools, it's only these government schools that have the type of quality they wanted. And since education is for all, quality education must be for all. They now told mission schools, both Christian and Muslims, that if they wanted their school handed over to them, they should write formally. And all the proprietors of these schools, both Muslims and Christians, wrote in 1974, 76.
All right.
And the schools were later taken over in 1976. Community schools were also taken over.
We do not have enough time. I'm sorry, Mr. Abdullahi, we do not have too much time.
You were raising about handing over schools.
I'm sorry, Mr. Abdullahi, we do not have time for the history class. It's very good that you've given us a basis, but please answer the question.
Okay. The former governor said the schools belong to the government. And the Christian missions, the Christian missionaries demanding for return of their schools said, no, the school belonged to them. And the governor said he would not hand over the school to them. This argument continued between 2012 to 2013. It was then the Christians threatened that if the schools are not handed over to them, they will go to court. And in 2013, they filed a case against KWARA state government in Ilorin High Court. And after 3 years of legal proceedings, the Ilorin High Court ruled that all the schools taken over belong to the state government and can never be returned to them.
You still haven't answered my question.
Ilorin High Court.
Mr. Abdullahi, you still haven't answered my question. We do not have time and we're running out of time. I'm going to ask you another question since you're yet to answer that question. Is a school
I'm giving you the background.
Yeah, we do not have time. I'm sorry, we do not have time. Is a school a place for an exhibition of your religious outfits? Because I'm asking this question because we had a similar situation in Osun State, I think in 2008, where every student decided to show up in their different churches or whatever outfits. The traditionalists also had their children. It became a jamboree and a show of shame. Is this what we should be doing in a school where there's a uniform that is acceptable across boards? Is this what should be happening in a school? Should we be politicizing issues such as wearing a school uniform?
I'm not sure you are aware of the current situation about uniform in Nigeria. If you are aware, I give you the example of the federal government colleges and federal government guest colleges across the whole country. In line with the religious teachings of every religion, and in line with the permission given to everybody to practice his faith, the issue of hijab for female matured students who are females is that they should use hijab. And more than 10 years ago, Federal Ministry of Education had issued circular informing all the secondary schools across the whole country that those who want to put hijab on their uniform, they are permitted. So over 100 or 200 federal government colleges across the country, they put hijab on their uniform, the same uniform put by others. If that has happened at the federal level, they are respecting the provision in Section 38 of the Nigerian Constitution, which is also spoken about in the National Policy on Education. Putting on hijab does not distort uniform worn by students.
All right, quickly, Reverend Hyab, we have just a few minutes to go now. In fact, we have a minute. He's made a case that this is part of the Constitution. Now, missionary schools obviously fall under the law in this country. What do we need to do to not have these kind of issues come up again and again, which could cause some form of, right now, the Bureau is threatening these missionary schools to leave the state because they call KWARA State an Islamic state. But the last time I checked, I think Nigeria is a secular state, but that's fine. What should you do as CAN to resolve this issue quickly? We have less than a minute.
Yeah, you know, when people come out in public and make claims using our Constitution, and you ask yourself whether the Constitution they are reading is the same Constitution you are reading. Let's not forget, as you cited the example of Osun State, when some drama happened Are you saying that the Constitution do not exist because we've not changed our Constitution? So which Constitution and which of the federal? You are even giving us a figure of federal government colleges in Nigeria that do not exist. So these and many others are the kind of confusion we are having. The truth about it is that our children left home to go and study. Our emphasis is not about the knowledge they acquire. Our emphasis is not the way they are being trained. Our emphasis is not about how they are prepared to be something in the future. Our emphasis is just a dress code. And we just make the entire educational system a mockery of it, and we are hiding and saying it's a constitutional thing. Please, can you read your constitution again and see whether the constitution said that? But don't also forget, if the constitution gives you right to hijab, the constitution also gives me right to other things that are different. So did I just wear also a choir robe and walk into school? We'll just set confusion. Schools' uniforms are done so that there will be some standard, some program and policy and orderliness in the way children appeared in class.
All right.
The way he wants. So we are not,
okay, well, we need to go. Unfortunately, we cannot conclude this conversation, but I want to say thank you very much, Reverend Joseph HIJAB, and of course Ibrahim Abdullahi, for speaking with us on this issue. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, I'll give you my take. Stay with us. Well, here's my take. Now, false dichotomies, propaganda, religious differences, and ethnic biases, these are some of the major threats to Nigeria's unity. Continuously viewing issues from the prism of politics, religion, and ethnicity, fueled by political leaders and governments, blinds us from the issues at hand, thereby dragging our attention from the main issues. Why do we politicize everything, say hurtful and inciting things that could cause unrest? As if Nigeria doesn't have enough problems. We keep saying we want unity and peace, yet we're quick to say, you're a Northerner. No, I'm a Christian. You're not one of us. What does one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity really mean if these divisive lines are so obvious amongst us? Can we really forge ahead as a nation if we do not blur these lines? We're only putting a plaster over the cancer as usual, not trying to heal the country. But it's not just the job of our political leaders. It's our parents, it's families, it's religious leaders, it's communities. We need to put a stop to this segregation. Stop beating the drums of war and division. Peace is cheaper. I am Mariana Kon, thanking you for watching. Do have a good evening.
First of all, symptoms of COVID-19 in children are very clear. You talk about fever. Most of the times it could be low-grade fever, oftentimes continuous high-grade fever that is not relapsing with your regular paracetamols and your tepid sponging. One of the other symptoms, aside the respiratory symptoms that you have to look out for, is the stooling and vomiting. It's been seen to have very strong effect on stooling and vomiting in recent times among children. And when you do a culture for that, you don't see anything. there are no bacterial infections associated with it. So then, of course, the baseline is your respiratory findings, which you can have the regular cough, nasal discharge a few times, but dry cough more often in children. You want to watch out for temperature changes. You want to watch out for, loss of appetite and some catarrh for a long time, what we know as nasal discharge. Then you have to teach and model hygiene, all right? A good hygiene practice, using the hand sanitizer, washing your hand regularly, in fact, should be the stated one. And in cases of no water, you can teach them for hand sanitizers, especially those more than 60% alcohol. And then they don't necessarily have to use the face mask often, but you must teach the intake of good clean water. And then more importantly is diet. You cannot just give any food now. You have to pay attention to vegetables, greens especially. You have to have a high protein diet and high calorie diet. For example, fat and oil is important for a child to improve their metabolic state, for protein to improve their growth rate, and more importantly, fruits to improve minerals and vitamins. And so you're not doing substitute of fruits, you're doing the real fruits, the vegetables, and things like pear, cashew nuts, watermelon, cucumber. Very important for them right now. Pawpaw has been seen to be very effective, especially for vitamin E, and it contains the tocopherols, vitamin E and Co, which is very important for their immunity. So you're focusing on building their immunity, and you're focusing on them having a good diet. So a summary of what parents should do in preventing COVID-19 amongst your children is: 1, teaching and modeling good health or hygiene practices. You don't just teach it, let them watch you and let them be conversant with it. Secondly, you must monitor their health. Don't take anything for granted. Once you notice fever for more than 24 hours, you want to report to the hospital and be sure that that fever is not stepping its bound. The third and very important thing, you want to see that this child is eating appropriately, and appropriately not giving junks. You want to see that they're eating the right high protein diet, a good calorie, which is fat and oil, and lastly, vegetables, of course, fruits and vegetables, so that they can build their immunity. Don't necessarily do fruit substitute. Some people want to do multivitamin. Those are placebos. They're good, but it cannot take the place of the right diet pattern, greens and vegetables.
In recent times, mental health disorders have become a pressing public health issue, depression being one of the most common of them. Depression is a common illness worldwide, with more than 264 million people. According to WHO, projections indicate that depression may be the second leading cause of life lost after heart disease. At its worst, depression can lead to suicide. Almost 1 million lives are lost yearly due to suicide, which translates to 3,000 suicide deaths every day. For every person who completes a suicide, 20 may attempt to end his or her life. Recently, a young Nigerian known as Ayodele Bandele was reportedly been found dead hours after he was declared missing on Tuesday, January 12th in Lagos State. Before he was declared missing, he left a disturbing note on his Instagram story where he hinted suicide after opening up on how he battled depression for 7 years. This trailed reactions on social media. Depression is real. Anyone can get depressed, even the teenagers. The World Health Organization has said that globally, depression is one of the leading causes of illness and disabilities among adolescents, and suicide is the third leading cause of death in 15 to 19-year-olds. We spoke to a child and educational psychologist who spoke on the causes of depression among the teenagers.
A lot of people believe that depression happens to only adults, but research has proven that teenagers also experience depression. Now, talking about what causes depression in teenagers, There are a whole lot of things that could cause depression among teenagers, but it's usually as a result of some kind of exposure to experiencing something different. So for some of them, they might experience a failure. Maybe they wrote an examination and they failed. It could cause depression. Sometimes it could be loss of a loved one. Maybe one of the parents passed on, or even a situation like a divorce. For some children who have very fragile personality, something like a sudden change of environment or a sudden change of school, something that is just unpalatable to them can cause depression in teenagers.
Here is a viral video of a mother in Kenya who narrated how she lost her teenage child.
And it was a Sunday evening and we had just had supper. And I thought that it was just one of his antics because he was a difficult boy. He became very difficult after he failed his Form 4 exams. And so finally, when they kept going and coming, and I was in my room. When I went outside, I found my son hanging on my veranda. And the most wicked sight in my life is to see his tongue hanging almost up till here. Because he had...
What should be done? What are the roles the parents are to play in curbing these disturbing issues of depression?
So the first thing that I would say that parents need to do is to realize that this is possible and to wake up from this, what I call it, denial that seems to exist in most African families. When parents do these two things, then they become naturally more observant. They begin to look out for the signs in the children. Yes, teenagers have a lot going on for them. They're going through hormonal changes. They're going through a lot of physical, psychological changes. And so, yes, they would have mood swings. They'll have high and low days, but it will come and go. But once it lingers for 2 weeks, thereabouts, please, we need to talk to a specialist. We need to talk to a doctor, first of all, because sometimes parents do not know how to access specialists. So we need to talk to a doctor who will then refer whether to a child psychologist or to a psychiatrist or whoever they think is best in that situation.
It is reported that majority of Nigerians lack awareness about mental health, plus non-available mental health services. These barriers have long-lasting consequences, as depressed patients who are untreated are more vulnerable to suicidal thoughts and suicide. There is therefore a need for more mental health practitioners in the country in order to meet the needs of the ever-growing number of people who will need to be treated. The first step towards tackling these issues, however, is raising awareness and talking about it.
Well, many thanks for joining us on Plus News Update. I am Justin Akadonye. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of new chairperson of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa. The confirmation came after Bawa was greeted for over 2 hours by the Red Chamber. President Muhammad Buhari had on February 16 requested the Senate to confirm Abdul Rashid Bawa as substantive chairman of the anti-graft agency. Bawa is a trained EFCC investigator with vast experience in the investigation and prosecution of advanced fee or issues. Meantime, Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions
on the 9th of March